I didn't have time to change, and I had to scavenge all the gear I have, said Emiko. Don't care, answered Chio. The laundry had returned cleaned and folded, and the weapons had returned cleaned and serviced, reloaded, and topped off with a fresh supply of ammunition to the respective changing rooms from which they had been gathered. Ryoko and Mikaru got dressed and exited to the common area coming through the curtain. At the same time, Kuro Silg and Lex exited through the curtain from the other side. Ryoko's eyes grew wide as she looked at them. Kuro Silk scratched the back of her head as she turned away, blushing with humiliation. Mikaru just looked at everyone, confused. Jack, coming back from the private bath area, broke the tension. Brittany entered to gather them all back up and bring them back to the room where Steve was. As they approached, Brittany saw Mickey finish closing the door with one hand, and it looked like she was trying to wipe her mouth clean with the other, as she and Akon darted away before the group got there. Brittany furiously slid the door open. "What did I tell you about allowing them in here?" she screamed, as she watched Steve finish zipping his pants back up. "What the hell did you do?" she continued, as her eyes went from narrow rage to wide disgust. The others stood behind her, as she noticed small random gooey drops on the floor. The expression on her face turned to ill. "Hey, you know me. They're not going to get any information out of me, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to take advantage of what she's willing to do to try. It may take her a while to figure that out though, but in the meantime, it's not like she left without getting anything out of me. Although I think she may have found it a bit chewy and chunky for her liking," explained Steve. Brittany grabbed her stomach and doubled over, gagging, ready to vomit, followed by Ryoko and Kuro Silk. Mikaru just looked confused again. "First," gagged Brittany, "too much information. Second, go see one of the medics," hacked Brittany. The girls recomposed themselves from the stomach-churning mental image they received. "Geez, your reactions are worse than hers. She actually had to have it in her mouth and feel the weight and texture and still act like she was into it to try and seduce me to the dark side," chuckled Steve, as the girls once again had to hold back their vomit-inducing reactions. Steve continued, "There's not much of a mess on the floor. I wonder if she's swallow. If you finish that line, there's going to be a massive mess on the floor from the three of us. Just before we end you," growled Brittany. "Anyway, yeah, I just played her," reassured Steve. In a maintenance locker, Mickey sat on her knees again, this time leaning over a trash can, her hands bracing herself around the rim as she vomited over and over again. Akon holding her long hair back out of her face. "Your sacrifice will not go unrewarded," said Akon to Mickey. Thick, heavy black leather boots clacked on the steel walkway, turning attention away from Steve's disgusting exploits. A buxom woman was approaching them at a quickened pace. The group turned to see her boots were thigh-highs with a white turned-over cuff. The rest of her dress was military style, with a black leather low-cut jacket with gold trim and lacing and white cuffs over a black leather skirt, a thin cincher-like garment clasped around her just below her breasts, white dress gloves over her hands, black leather officer cap, thick black neck guard around her throat, white skin, long dark golden hair, crystal blue eyes, and finally a long mantle, red on the interior, black leather on the exterior, with white ermine fur tracing the outer edge, flowed gallantly behind her from her shoulders as she walked, a Heckler & Koch G11 K2 rifle in her hand. "I am not interrupting anything, am I?" her thick Romanian accent and proper-sounding speech chimed out. "No," replied Brittany. "You returned sooner than expected. I see you have new companions. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Romelia V, of the Romanian Vulturi Special Command Emergency Task Force. Enough with the formal pleasantries now. Spook Brittany, we have situation, that is the meaning of my rapid return." As she spoke, camera dogs began darting by in rapid numbers. Romelia led the way as the group made it to the roof, joined there by Sabrina, Mickey, and Akon with their troops. They watched as the camera dogs raced across the ground and disappeared into the woods in the direction of something in the distance. As the group looked out, they came to the realization that a large force of Skibidi Toilets was heading their way. A deep sinking feeling took over in the pit of Brittany's stomach. "Well now, what are we going to do?" came a voice with a soft London accent. Standing next to the group back facing the oncoming threat, leaning up against the wall with his elbows resting on it, was a man. His hair short, shaggy and white. He wore a headset and black sunglasses, a drab olive-green bubble vest over a tight long-sleeve turtleneck shirt, black gloves, tactical gear strapped to his arms and chest, pants in the same color as his vest, pouches hung off his belt, and black combat boots. He held an L-85 rifle in his right hand. He stood up straight and placed his rifle over his shoulder and behind his head as he looked at the group. "Jin Smith, pleasure," he said.